We got issues right now as a nation as a result of our overspending. We have issues right now, and of course that leads to inflation. Also, higher prices, booming economies, that's inflationary as well. When we reshore, friendshore, begin to manufacture here, unless we can do it in a real lean way, it's likely to be inflationary and more costly because we're not doing it at, prices where we pay people a lot cheaper to live.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Hey, we're right here in mid-December. The year is almost shot. The election has come and gone. Remarkably, sentiment has changed among virtually everyone I speak with. And I speak with a lot of people. Gerald Celente, Trends Journal, Optimistic. Martin Armstrong, Armstrong Economics, optimistic, at least through 26. He's forecasting other things to happen, but who knows? For right now, the optimism, I know because I talk to family members and friends who are way, way on the other side of the equation here, and none of them are upset. It's they're either in a state of resignation or what? Only some people on the media. But anyway, let's talk with David Stryzewski, find out from David, what are you seeing here? What is your feeling? Has sentiment changed? How can sentiment change that quickly just over an election?
Well, Kerry, we had two very completely candidates, and obviously the current administration that was in power was running on a platform of, saying, hey, when we're in power, we'll do this. And it's actually, they were still in power. So the sentiment was getting very, very negative. I had a very negative sentiment personally going into, even September, October, when others were just thinking everything's just rallying and awesome, because we've been seeing a lot of deterioration in the numbers. But post this election, there's no question that we've seen, the Trump bump, the Trump effect. The following day, Putin's talking about peace. We've got Iran basically saying they're not going to be doing, all the terrorism stuff. This guy shows up, and a lot of things begin to start changing, and especially when you've got this government efficiencies idea of where there's going to be real cuts. But where we're at right now is a very interesting place. And that is, the Fed has been, since March of 22, raising interest rates, telling us everything's, good to go. And, obviously they missed the whole inflation thing the entire time, in my personal opinion. And I think history is going to tell the story correctly. But now the Fed has a completely different administration that's coming in, arguably the most pro-growth president in the history of the United States, with cuts that are coming, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act 2.0, which in this case now has, new deregulation components to it, has new components like, no taxes on tips and a couple of other things that might really boost some middle street, Main Street families and people that are out there. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle that you voted on or whether you went to college or not. It's something that can happen and help people at many levels. And so you're seeing a lot of positives. And so obviously markets at all-time highs right now. We've got, stock markets at all-time highs. Golds are near all-time highs. Bitcoin's at all-time highs. Real estate's at all-time highs. Everything is at all-time highs. And my warning is this: inflation is present. It is here. 2025, we're for sure going to see it. And so I think that President Trump and his administration is going to have a lot of surprises. Hopefully no unexpected surprises, but, likely that's how it all works. But ultimately, we're going to see some hawkish things right now, but that gives us the ability to cut rates in the future in a way that's meaningful and actually could get us on track. So I'm optimistic about the future, but man, am I cautious at the exact same time, especially as we're sitting here at record highs, Kerry.
Hey, well, inflation, it's a generational thing. It doesn't just come and go. You know what else we're seeing, though, David, that I have not seen since Reagan? The desire of those in power to actually cut back on the power of the bureaucracy, to streamline, make government operations more efficient, to cut out useless spending, corporate welfare, and waste and corruption. I've never seen in my short time on this planet here anyone as hell-bent and determined to do it. And, it's we have something like 400 or 500 federal government agencies, and now they're talking about knocking it down to 100. It's going to be profound effects here, not all positive in the short run. The other thing I think was interesting was that the first foreign leader that President-elect Trump met with was Javier Milei, who's the president of Argentina, who has literally eviscerated their government and cut. That's his thing. And he hasn't hesitated and he hasn't looked back. Their inflation is down from 20 or 30% a month to 2%, but it's going even lower.
Yeah, absolutely. And, thankfully, we've got a couple of examples out here like this that are recent. I mean, we can always look back at history and know that, certain things go forward and they work out. But now we've got some radical people that have taken very radical stances, kind of similar to Milei, who came in with a very different way of doing government, with a mandate from the people to get in there and to make some adjustments. And I think that's interesting because we find ourselves maybe at a point where I might call it like a national revival moment. And it's a reviving of national independence. I got a flag sitting here behind me. I remember at the beginning of 2020 where wearing a flag or having a flag around you was like such an anti-American thing and was such a terrible idea. I doubled down and said, no, that's the opposite. We're very confused right now. And I think that we're going to look back on history and over the last 4 or 5 years, and we're going to say, you know what? We might need to reevaluate some things, in the way that we look at society ourselves, but also even the investments and things that are out there. Because when we have new administrations and new changes, guess what? There's going to be opportunities in these times of transitional shift like this. And so it's an important thing to have someone like me, who understands communism, who has the direct example of what they're rooting out. And if you'll recall, Argentina was the superpower just 2 superpowers ago, and now their nation is just in absolute disarray. Inflation is terrible. They have no stability. And so if you look at the people going from amazing lives and the most sophisticated society on earth at the time to where they are right now, I think that there's a whole lot of lessons and things that they would have said, man, had another opportunity, we would have done things different. I just hope that the United States right now is paying attention. And again, this moment of national revival. What do we believe in? Why? What are we standing for? Why? What are we voting for? Why? And I think that we demand more of the people that we're sending to Washington, that they represent us and not just their own interests.
All right. So getting down to brass tacks here.
Sir.
What's Powell going to do here? Is he going to keep cutting? Because Trump wants those rates cut. But on the other hand, Trump's making the unrealistic promise that he's going to bring down inflation in the face of rate cuts. And one thing I'd just like to point out, energy is important for sure. During the Trump administration, I think when he came into office, we were doing 8.5 million barrels a day, close to 9 million production. When he left, we were doing 12.5 million, which was like 40 some odd % increase. And that natural gas followed a similar curve throughout the past 4 years. Yeah, we're producing record amounts of energy, but the oil gas production's gone up about 3.5%. You think that expanding energy production really is going to bring down inflation here without major cuts to the government spending and their participation in the economy?
Well, you nailed it in the question, because you said the both sides of the scale. There's your input and your output, or the amount of money that you spend versus what's coming in. We got issues right now as a nation as a result of our overspending. We have issues right now, and of course that leads to inflation. Also, higher prices, booming economies, that's inflationary as well. When we reshore, friendshore, begin to manufacture here, unless we can do it in a real lean way, it's likely to be inflationary and more costly, because we're not doing it at prices where we pay people a lot cheaper to live. And so can Trump do it? Well, this is supply side economics, and so what he's doing is he's focused on the supply side. He's focused on the areas that are going to give our economy the greatest opportunity to grow. And so when we talk about oil, that is something that the United States has more than anybody else. There's no question that if you even look at, and by the way, I own 2 Teslas and gas vehicles as well. I love the technology, but it cannot solve all the world's problems, at least today. And lithium batteries are not really the right answer as the weather starts to get cold. So there's a lot of things that are good, innovations taking place. But as a society, we've not really figured out, really where the world is going to end up being. We just know that we're going to be manufacturing more effectively. The United States does manufacturing specifically in oil cleaner and safer than anyone in the world. I like those 2 ideas. Do we do it cheaper than anyone in the world? Cleaner and safer. And so if we got a lot of it, it's plentiful. We can continue to flow to our allies and to the right places, potentially reduce the prices of oil, which ultimately is what cripples Russia if they are going to, be able to be a war machine or whatever. They have a one-dimensional economy. It's all based on energy. If you want Russia to not be able to have money, which is something that we did to them before with kind of a Reagan approach, then what you do is you change the dynamics of how it works, and you just do it a little bit better. And so can Trump get Powell to come off his number and drop rates as meaningful? I don't think so, and I don't think that it would be wise of Powell to be dropping rates right now. I think that they dropped rates too early. To answer this part of the question, and I think that Powell actually made the Arthur Burns mistake. And so here's the big question that comes in 25. Are we going to be sticking with 2% inflation, or is 3% or 4% okay? Where do we even come up with 2? It's based on models from long-term time frames, but not based upon realistic understandings of a higher inflationary world, times of transition, friendshoring, reshoring, all the various components that are going into this. And so I think they're going to become more comfortable with higher inflation, but we're going to do more supply side. It's going to put more money into the American consumer's pocket. But we've got a lot of challenges that are likely going to be getting dropped on this administration and are going to have to get figured out. So what are these strategies and answers here in the future? Not really sure. And it's a little early to tell the way that it goes. But I think that there's a probability that we might have to even raise rates if things, go too strong. But that's a part of the reason why I think Powell came in today and saying that their forward-looking view for 2025, which is what the market was more concerned about, was that they were only going to be cutting 2 times as opposed to 4. So we just got 4 times now since September, for a full point down since September 18th, here this year, and we might only get 50 basis points next year. So that's a big difference for the market. We could see stock sell-off. We could see, the treasuries start to go higher. We could start to see, maybe the Christmas rally doesn't go as well as it could. But the point is that supply side economics will win in the end, and we need to be doing the things that are going to do the long-term build, the long-term growth, the things that my 5 children are going to be able to appreciate, not just something that's going to manipulate a quarter or 2.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the Santa Claus rally, it should be here very shortly, right?
Yes, sir. Hey, well, we're seeing it right now, depending on how you've been allocated.
A couple of days, though, the market's been down, but, it's going to be interesting to see. And AI. So is AI going to be a flash in the pan? Is it going to be more like the dot-bomb bust? But the dot-bomb bust led to all these massive companies like Microsoft and Google and so many, right?
Mm-hmm. So, well, the cycle of growth inside of technologies and companies is you just kind of start out with whatever. I mean, just even think about social media. There was this company called MySpace that everyone had, and now nobody has, right? It's gone. And then Facebook's now become Meta, and it's transformed. Well, as far as AI goes, my personal belief of AI is, no, the toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't stop it. It's doubling its knowledge all the time. This is the future. The question is, how is it going to impact us, and how soon can that happen? And then we come up with questions like, wait a minute, how are we going to supply the energy that's needed to do all this data storage, all this AI intelligence? And so if you're not able to have a meaningful change in somebody's life as a result of this AI, no one's going to adopt it. I personally think that NVIDIA could have challenges here in the future because they've been the name, and the concern is they became the darling of the stock market, rose to be, one of the largest companies in the entire world so quickly. And we haven't really determined that they're the best chip. We know that they have better capacity, they're really quick, etc. But maybe they're too much of an energy hog. Maybe they're too overbuilt for most of the applications or some of the applications, and we begin to yield it back. And so I'm excited about AI. I'm excited about the future, but I'll just tell you this, my kids aren't watching this today, hopefully, but they all got iPhone 16s coming here for Christmas. And so I'm kind of excited about the Apple intelligence that's going on inside of that phone.
Here, let's do a little experiment.
All right. What do you got?
Siri, check ChatGPT and look up David Stryzewski for me. Here it is. And here it is. It says, oh, geez, it just went away on me. Anyway, it said it gave me your bio, but I wanted it to actually say it, but I didn't give it the right command.
Yeah.
It looked up ChatGPT. So Siri was really an elementary school dropout. Mm-hmm. And now that she's hooked up with ChatGPT, we got our first AI wedding, and she's like a lot brighter now. She's actually useful. You can imagine that. But I will tell you this, as a fellow Tesla owner, FSD 13.2.1, which I just got 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. David, I had the FSD 2.5 years ago when they first started pushing it out to the broader public, and I wouldn't trust it. I used to say, if you trust a FSD, in local driving on the highway, it was always phenomenal.
Right.
Local driving, you're going to die. Now, I will tell you, on the highway at 85 miles an hour, it's a better driver than I am. And locally, it's not quite as good as me yet. But, David, the last update I got like a month ago, this thing is way, way better. Way better. If I was a less aggressive driver, I probably would never intervene for most of the drives that I take. And that's only in a month, right? When we first started the FSD, I'm saying, okay, 5 to 10 years. There's no way they can do this any better. But then they got the AI, and all of a sudden, I think in 6 months, they could be there.
Yeah.
I mean there was a guy.
AI on wheels, right? And you nailed it, because, that machine learning, it's driven those roads so many times. These cars are going, they're constantly picking up stuff. They're learning new ways of analyzing it, the road patterns and how you deal with this and this weather condition. So it's amazing, the full service driving. I mean, my kids actually really, it's like a magic trick, right? Because you just tell it where to go and it starts making the turn for you. It turns on the blinker, and but you're correct that it is way above average, and I have personal confidence in it as well. Where a lot of people, I feel like as they think about AI in general, it's sort of like the internet of the early '90s. They go, man, I'll never buy anything on that,
right?
And the next thing you know, we got our phones here and we're asking about David Stryzewski and bios and ordering Christmas off Amazon or whatever. And it's incredible. So I think adoption's coming. It's not here yet because we've not seen the technology catch up, and but I think it's rapidly changing.
Oh, just the other day, the road outside of my subdivision, it had one lane blocked, and they had the guy with the sign, and the car sees him. The sign was, he had it turned to stop. The car stops. He turns it to slow. the car starts going, changes lanes, sees the other guy with slow, and goes around it and continues the drive. Is amazing. That is the most amazing thing. And it saw him. I saw it on the screen. It totally understood what was going on there.
Right.
But yeah, so I think AI is the key, although I think it will replace a lot of jobs out there. Who knows over what time period? They always said, well, it's going to create more jobs. I think this is the one where it doesn't. But if the cost of living and manufacturing all these things goes down to a fraction of where it is now, and the productivity boom, goes thousandfold, it's not going to matter.
Right. Well, one of the other interesting things that's happening today is, the conversation about how much money we make. These unions are going on strike and demanding 10% a year increases for the next 5 years or whatever. And you're just like, wow, inflation's done? It doesn't sound like it. When you begin to think about the costs that you would have as a manufacturer to buy machines. Okay. It's usually, big cost on the front end, but your machine doesn't get sick, doesn't, leave and go work for someone else, doesn't require health insurance, doesn't need pay raises. When you get to $15 and $20 minimum wages, which in the state of Washington right now, for whatever reason, we think that that's a good idea. The point is that I see a lot of manufacturers that are going to be changing over, and yeah, there's a lot of those jobs that are going to be lost, but there's a lot of technical jobs that are going to get lost because, and also I think the healthcare system. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
AI is just a reference. It's a speed reader. Could AI not read every book that it takes to become a doctor, understand how to prescribe and apply this information to the individuals based upon particulars, et cetera, and then it's able to do all this in a very low-cost way, and it's better than a doctor is because a doctor is still a human. They still get tired. They still see 35 people a day, whatever. This technology has the ability to make life a lot better. There's also a double-edged sword on it, and it could really make some things challenging with hacking and stealing and just confusing parts of it. But so it's going to be a weird world, but an exciting one. So this is, a moment where I'm saying, this is a buckle up. All eyes open. Hopefully we're excited, and hopefully people don't just get stuck in the way that things were. But I do recognize that some of these technologies are a little bit scary.
Definitely. Well, the future it's an amazing time to be alive. David, just tell us, where do we find you? How do we connect with you on the web?
Yeah, so company's called Sound Planning Group. MySPG.com is our primary website there. So I've got actually some classes are going to be coming out first part of the year. We're going to be doing them online, where I've just only done this at local colleges here in the Washington State area, Greater Seattle area. And so people can look for ideas out there and check out our Google reviews and all the wonderful things that people are saying about us. It's honestly the thing that's a pick me up for me these days. If you're ever feeling down or there's all these things going on, you go and you look at the people that you love and you care about, and when they say nice things about you, I don't know, there's just something about that gives you the courage and the ability to just continue to go forward. So I'm excited to be with you today, Kerry. And
you too, man. I appreciate you coming on. Any questions, comments? KL@kerrylutz.com. Link to David's site is in the show notes. This interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. While you're there, just ask that you kindly subscribe to our free newsletter, as over 60,000 other FSN members have. David, always a pleasure. Talk to you soon. If don't talk to you before, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you in 2025.
Same to you, friend. Blessings. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.